This iMac cost me 75 bucks. Is it worth it? And does it even work? About 2 weeks ago, I posted a community poll about what you guys, my subscribers, wanted to see next. And of the 2,000 of you that voted, thanks for that by the way, was not expecting such a turnout, 50% of you wanted to see an iMac. So, here we are. I bought this iMac for $75. It was a flashing folder for parts or repair. Almost a year ago at this point, I made a video about why flashing folder Macs are a really good option for buying used, because usually they're just issues with the hard drive and sellers often don't know this. That video got like 130,000 views, success I've been trying to replicate ever since. But anyway, this was one such Apple device. The seller had stated that the hard drive died and would need to be replaced. So I went on iFixit and I looked up aluminum iMac hard drive replacement. And I was a little scared. It looked a little complicated. Not like where it was impossible. It's certainly not impossible. It's just, it seemed more involved than I really wanted to do. You gotta take off the screen, the bezel, unplug a bunch of sensors. Just seemed like a hassle that I didn't really want to do. So what I had planned was to just run macOS from an external hard drive. So I figured for 75 bucks, it's gotta be worth it. Someday I'll replace the hard drive, but until then, we'll just use an external drive. Easy peasy, right? Well, not quite, because when my iMac showed up, I decided to try disk utility from Internet Recovery to see if I could revive the quote-unquote dead hard drive. And to my great surprise, I was. After wiping the hard drive and reinstalling macOS, it booted right up, no problem at all. I scored a $75 iMac that is in complete working order. After a quick install of El Capitan, the latest operating system this device can run, we are up and running with this totally functional $75 iMac. So now that that's up and running, let's take a look at what we got, because the seller didn't say the specific specs of this device, so I didn't really know. What it turned out to be was the first ever aluminum iMac, a 2007 20-inch unit with a 2.4 GHz Core 2 Duo. This was actually the higher end 20-inch model and shipped with 2 GB of RAM, a 320 GB hard drive, and Radeon HD 2600 Pro graphics. Mine is completely stock, except the RAM was bumped to 3 GB. The storage in this is original, the 320 GB hard drive, and nothing else has been changed at all. You know, I've always loved the idea of the iMac. With the 2007 iMac, Apple was especially keen on bringing the iMac up market, with a new design that looks far more premium than the white plastic iMac that carried over its design from the G5 iMac. This newer design looks a lot more modern than the white plastic iMac, and I think the aluminum and glass just really look classy. In fact, it's fundamentally the same design aesthetic that Apple still uses to this day in the iMac. With this new iMac, Apple focused on making the iMac classier, but also provide a better value. They erased the smaller 17-inch iMac from existence, bringing the 20-inch to the base model and introducing a 24-inch model as well. What was interesting about this generation iMac was it's one of the few times where Apple provided a major upgrade to a product line and actually lowered the price. Whereas in the past, the 17-inch iMac was the base model, Apple put the 20-inch in at the same exact price, but with better specifications and a much classier and more modern design. Additionally, unlike the recent tapered edge iMacs, the display glass on this model is held on with magnets and can be popped off to access the internals. Although, to really get into the guts of this device, you do have to take off the actual LCD and the front aluminum bezel. Despite those obstacles, and the rather more complicated internals of a lot of these older Macs, this iMac isn't too bad to work on, if a little time-consuming, and even has upgradable CPUs and graphics. Now, granted, the graphics can't be upgraded to standard desktop cards, limiting the options to cards made for the iMac, but it is nice to know that there are options if the graphics fail. The CPUs can also be upgraded from the original VRAM Core 2 Duos to Penryn CPUs, which will allow you to install macOS Sierra and High Sierra with a patch tool. Although it is important to note that even then, Wi-Fi won't be supported. As it currently stands, my iMac with its VRAM CPU can only run El Capitan, as patches to allow you to run Sierra do not support VRAM CPUs. So if Sierra and High Sierra are a must for you, definitely stay away from the mid-2007 and try to get a 2008 or 9. Now, on the subject of CPU upgradability, it's a bit of a complicated procedure, but it's really not that expensive and you can boost your performance a good amount. My particular model has the 2.4 GHz CPU, but you can upgrade to Penryn CPUs and 3 GHz CPUs for literally like $10. The only thing that would really stand in your way is getting into the guts of this machine, because once you dig down deep enough to do a CPU upgrade, it is a little bit tricky. Now, it's also important to note that CPU upgradability is not exclusive to this iMac, as most iMacs, including the current generation iMacs, do have normal desktop sockets inside of them, so you can replace the CPU if you're so inclined. In fact, if you're looking into doing that, Quinn from Snazzy Labs made a video a couple of months ago about upgrading the 2017 iMac with really nice, powerful Intel Core i7 processors. It's definitely worth checking out. So, the performance of this machine in its stock configuration, well, close to stock, apart from 1 extra gigabyte of RAM, it's about on par with my 2009 MacBook Pro. In Cinebench, this machine scores about 115, which is pretty close to the score that I got on my 2009 MacBook Pro, so you can expect that this thing will perform similarly for basic tasks. Although it is important to note that the graphics performance on this machine, while not very good, will certainly outpace that of a 2009 MacBook Pro, for no other reason than that this computer has a larger TDP and thermal headroom, so you can put in more powerful graphics. Performance for basic tasks is pretty adequate on this machine. While it's no speed demon, this iMac can certainly live on your desk for media and web browsing content. I did notice though that even under light loads, the iMac got quite hot. I've noticed this also in my 2009 MacBook Pro, and I personally chalk this up to the older Core 2 Duos that need to be worked a lot harder to perform even simple tasks. Fortunately, because this is a desktop computer, the heat isn't really noticeable when using the iMac from normal distances. The other performance issue that I've noticed with this device is the internet is just shocking. So up here in my studio, the Wi-Fi doesn't even reach. It disconnects constantly and doesn't really work. So I figured I'll just use the Ethernet port, although for some reason I'm still having absurdly slow internet. So to put it in perspective, I downloaded Cinebench R15 so I could run benchmarks on the CPU. Cinebench is only 82 megabytes, but it took me 12 minutes to download, and that's plugged into Ethernet. Now, granted, the internet here is absolutely just awful, and even with Ethernet, I can only get about 3 megabytes per second download, but this iMac, for some reason, was getting literal kilobytes per second. Now, the other thing that would really help the performance of this device is upgrading the RAM. I just had an idea. I've got an old, broken 2008 MacBook Pro, and I'm pretty sure they use the same RAM. I'm gonna upgrade this to 4 gigabytes. That's what we're gonna do. So, I remembered that in addition to my cheapest MacBook Pro on eBay, I've got this old girl that no longer works, sadly, and I've been harvesting for parts, but it's got 4 gigabytes of RAM, and it's DDR2 RAM, which I believe this machine also uses, so we're gonna go ahead and do that upgrade, shall we? So I've pulled the RAM out, and also I have a cat helper now, so that's nice. But anyway, the RAM... You're not very helpful. Anyway, RAM upgrades on this device are pretty easy because we've got this convenient... Go away. we've got this convenient little hatch under here. Oh my lord. So all you have to do is unscrew this little thing and now we'll pop it off. Ugh. Holy dust, Batman. Oh my lord, that is a mess. Oh, are you leaving? Bye. You can see up in there. Oh gosh, that's really dusty. Oh wow. Once you got it open and lay it down, you just have these little tabs, and then all you have to do is stick in the RAM chips. Easy peasy. And voila, 4 gigabytes of RAM. Okay, 4 gigabytes of RAM is installed. So overall, I think this iMac actually gives pretty good value for just $75. So as I said earlier, the performance is similar to a 2009 MacBook Pro, but a 2009 MacBook Pro costs at least twice as much as what I paid for this iMac. Now, I'm not sure how easily replicatable, is that a word, this deal would be, because I happen to get an iMac that worked perfectly even though the seller thought that it didn't. But for around $100, you can definitely pick up machines like this, and for that money, I think it's definitely worth it. For watching Netflix or YouTube videos, simple web browsing, maybe even occasional Photoshop photo editing, if you are patient, shall we say, I think this device pulls it off quite well. Now before I go, I just want to explain something really quick. I've gotten a bunch of you commenting that my speakers are the wrong way. And yes, I know, I'm not crazy, and thank you for commenting about 17 times on every single video. So I figured I'd explain why they're like this. I have my Mac Pro down here, and the cord to plug in the speakers doesn't reach if I put that speaker on the other side of the monitor. So that's why it's over there. And with that, I will see you guys in the next video. Let me know in the comments below if you want to see other videos with this iMac. And as usual, make sure to follow me on Twitter at Miani, and feel free to join my subreddit. We've got a great community over there if you're looking into buying or repairing or flipping Apple products, so please go ahead and check that out. And with that, I will see you in the next one.